Really excited to welcome to the screen in just a moment here, Rachel Hodgdon. One of the topics that has been throughout this whole program, of course, is COVID and really understanding the consumer and how they're going to feel safe or want to feel safe coming back into stores. So we saved this topic for the end of the program today. It's a very important one, and I want to welcome now to the screen my friend Rachel Hodgdon. Rachel is the president of the International Well-Building Institute, and they administer the well-building standard. I've had the good fortune of knowing Rachel for a number of years now. Prior to IWBI, Rachel spent a long time at the U.S. Green Building Council working on the LEED rating system, which a lot of retailers, but not enough, utilize as well. Rachel's going to be here to tell you about the well-building standard, but specifically the health safety rating. So, Rachel, I'm going to let you take it from here, and then we'll come back in for a conversation and for some questions from the audience.
Terrific. Can you all hear me? Okay, I'm praying that the answer is yes. All right, so always hard to be on the other end of zero faces, but great to see, Michael, your face, and thanks as always for being such a terrific partner and for the invitation to speak to this incredibly diverse audience from the retail sector today. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the work that we do at the International Well-Building Institute. We are on a mission to advance health and well-being globally through better buildings, stronger organizations, and more vibrant communities. And now, more than ever, we understand the power of place in the future of protecting our families, our businesses, and the public at large. I'm going to talk to you a little bit first about the suite of products that we offer at IWBI. More often than not, people introduce me as Rachel from Well, as opposed to Rachel from IWBI, because our core product is really what we're known for the most, and that is Well certification. Well certification can be applied to at the building scale, at the organization scale through our Well portfolio program, and through the community scale. We've got a specific offering for that. We have a professional accreditation program for those that facilitate the Well certification process or generally want to demonstrate themselves to be experts in aspects of health and well-being as it intersects with the built environment and organizational policy. I'll talk a little bit more about Well APs in just a moment. We also have a brand new membership offering, which is in many instances the place where retailers and other business types start when they want to commence a relationship with IWBI and are starting to get their bearings around all of the different ways to advance health and well-being, and these days safety within their buildings and within their organizations. And then finally, a brand new offering, which I'll talk about toward the end of my comments today, the Well Health Safety Rating, which was specifically designed to address the world that we're living in right now in the midst of this pandemic. This global movement is alive and, dare I say, well. I love this slide because it's always changing. Nearly 5,000 projects that have registered for Well certification. That accounts for more than 500 million square feet, much more than 500 million square feet, and that's across 63 countries. We've got 13,200 plus individuals who have either earned their Well AP designation or are in the process of pursuing it. One of the things that I think is interesting about this slide is that it doesn't contain any of the metrics about our brand new Well Health Safety Rating. Well Health Safety is a new offering. It's essentially a subset of requirements from the Well Building Standard. And in the space of less than 60 days, the past 60 days, the number of projects that have registered for Well Health Safety has actually exceeded the number of Well projects overall. So that's 60 days since the product launched. We've had over 5,000 projects that have since registered. I love to put up pictures like this because, you know, they tell a story and are worth 1,000 words. So these are some samplings of Well projects from all over the globe. Looking at these images, I see places that I've visited in Asia, which is our largest market by square footage, in Australia, which is our biggest market in terms of saturation, at least in the commercial office space, in the United States, as well as in Europe. As I mentioned, where the project teams are applying well in many, many different places around the world and in many different kinds of spaces. You can certify any space for well, including tenant spaces that are in existing buildings, core and shell or base buildings, retail spaces for sure. The only thing that we won't put a mark on just yet are single family homes, but we do a steady trade in multifamily residential. This slide I love because it showcases some of the creativity of our well users. For instance, that yellow space that you're seeing over there is a corporate headquarters. That's for standing meetings only. Literally, there are no seats in the room. There are places where you can lean for comfort, and the lights are programmed to stay on only for 15 minutes to encourage fast meetings. That meeting room can't be booked ahead of time, and it's designed to get people into that collaborative space, thinking quickly on their feet, on for days. So different ways in retail and beyond through the lens of the well system. The well system itself really focuses on the intersection of that which the building can do through design and through building operations and maintenance, and that which the organization can do through programs, policies, and plans. So we're looking at the intersection of design with organization policies and protocols. Reminder of why it's so critical. You cannot design your way out of COVID-19. You can put all of the provisions into place that you want from an operational perspective and a design perspective, improve the air quality, clean the surfaces. But if you don't have a policy that encourages your employees to stay home when you're sick, if you don't have provisions to screen people as they're entering into the space or other protective mechanisms that you're using by complementing them with policies and with guidance to visitors, then the second that somebody walks into that space who's infected and sneezes without covering their arm, everybody's going to be exposed. And that's why we sit at that intersection of buildings and what the organization can do through its own policies and programs. I want to talk to you just a little bit about the work that we did convening around our COVID-19 task force, which we formed on the eve of shutting down our office in New York City and sending everyone home to a remote work setting in March. We asked the community to raise their hands to help us to crowdsource very quickly within the space of just less than 60 days. All of the latest science and evidence that we had around COVID-19 and how buildings and organizations could be a part of the fight against the virus. We had a rock star lineup of co-chairs that included professors from Harvard, former surgeon generals, real estate executives, the former head of the China CDC, and so forth and so on, and more than 600 other experts, doctors, virologists, building scientists, commercial leaders, and so forth, raised their hands to help us with this exercise. And one of the most important outcomes that was informed by that exercise was that brand new offering that I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, the Well Health Safety Rating. This is a rating that's designed to address acute health threats within the built environment, and so most especially COVID-19, but not limited to. It focuses specifically on operations and management policies, so it doesn't require any kind of costly capital improvements, and it's essentially a subset of features that are required within Well, so it can be implemented and achieved on a much faster timeline. One of the best examples that we have of the Well Health Safety Rating achievement is one of the very first projects to become certified, or rated rather. They managed to achieve their Well Health Safety Rating within 2 weeks, and that is the New York Yankees, who understood from the very outset just how critically important it is and would be as they prepared to welcome not just fans back into the stadium, but also players, first and foremost, or at least first in order of things. They recognized having that seal on the outside could really stand as a shorthand to those that were coming through the door, that they could feel more confident going inside. And that's really what the Well Health Safety Rating is designed to do. This is a place where we've seen enormous levels of participation from retail. In fact, many of the thousands of projects that have registered so far are in fact retail establishments of some variety. I think really trying to address the significant confidence gap that exists with many consumers as well as many employees. So That's a lot of information in just the space of a couple of minutes, but Michael asked that we reserve a good chunk of time for questions. So I'm looking forward to hearing a little bit about what's on your mind and whether or not we've got a solution that we can help to offer you.
So Rachel, thanks for giving us the overview there. So specifically to retail, and as you know, we operate in a number of different verticals. I can see the applications of well making sense in pretty much all built environments. But specifically to retail, I kind of joked on it at the beginning there, but I think back to LEED, and we just had Walmart earlier. When I think of retailers that embrace LEED, I think of Whole Foods, I think of Walmart, I think of Starbucks, right? Kind of. But the adoption wasn't, that great. Why should retailers consider well now? And what is? I'll let you take it from there.
I'm like, I get it. I'm ready. Okay, let's go.
Yeah,
so, let me give you a parallel example in hospitality, because I think that they're struggling with a lot of similar concerns right now in addressing the return back to some form of normalcy in the midst of this pandemic. Way before the pandemic, I lived out of a suitcase in a hotel for the better part of 3 years. The first 3 years I worked at IWBI. I live in DC and I was commuting to New York. I stayed in about 22 hotels before I finally found one that met my very particular requirements, because as Michael knows, I come from LEED stock. I worked at the U.S. Green Building Council, the creators of LEED, for 10 years. And so I want operable windows and hardwood floors and high-performing acoustics and an excellent HVAC system. You get the point. It took me about 22 hotels to find my way to one that met all of those requirements. But it wasn't until I had been living there for the better part of a year that a bellman said to me, "What do you do for a living anyway?" And I answered that question, as I often do, "Have you ever heard of LEED?" Well, he said, "Of course I've heard of LEED. This hotel is LEED certified." Okay, now again, I'm living in this hotel every week. I've never seen a LEED plaque. I've never seen anything to do in their marketing. And I said, I don't understand. Why is it that you worked so hard to achieve this certification, but you're not talking about it? And they said, well, not only does our customer not care, we're not sure our customer likes the idea of what a sustainability or green certification stands for. In a hospitality sense, it's being, cheated out of my clean sheets and my hot shower, and so I think historically, one of the challenges that sustainability has struggled with in sectors that really are catering first and foremost to the consumer, to, in this case, to the shopper, in that case, to a hotel guest, has been associated more with scarcity, more with what you give up as opposed to what you gain. So I think that's really how well differs, is it filters a lot of those same themes like daylighting, acoustics, materiality through the lens of something we all care about, which is our own health, our family's health, and the health and vitality of our businesses and communities. So, I would say that we were seeing strong levels of interest from retail prior to the pandemic. I would say since the outset of the pandemic, we see very high levels of interest and engagement from retailers, because ultimately what they need more than anything is to help their staff and to help their customers feel comfortable coming back in through the doors. And that is really what the Health Safety Seal stands for. It's a third-party, validated, rigorous review process that affirms that you've thought of all the right things and you've had your work checked.
Yeah, great. So that's my other question was going to ask you, of course, prior to COVID and then since COVID, I'm sure that the volume of interest across the board, and I've seen that with the work that you guys are doing with public schools and in senior housing and other areas, that it totally makes sense to be pursuing this. But also, retail is an industry right now that a lot of retailers are financially challenged, right? Making tough decisions on what they're going to pursue and what they're not. So for retailers, what is the time frame, right? If a retailer says, I want to go down this avenue because I do realize that going into the new year, this is a concern for a lot of consumers that, may choose to go into a store because they do see that plaque outside. What's the journey like for a retailer that wants to get involved?
So what I've noticed since we launched Well Health Safety a couple of months ago is that there's really two types of customers. There's the type of customer that says, like the Yankees, that say, I know exactly what to do. We've spent months working on this. We've consulted the best experts. We have 200 pages worth of new guidelines and protocols. We've done all the right things. Now what we need is for somebody to check our work, make sure that that's complete, inform us of whether we've missed anything, whether there are any gaps in our preparedness, and then put that seal on the door. For an organization like the Yankees, their documentation was completed within the space of, I think it was 2 weeks. And then we, in turn, took, along with our third-party verification body, GBCI, same ones that do LEED, same ones that do well, took about 2 weeks worth of business days to turn that review around. So, for organizations that know exactly what to do, that's a really short path, and Well Health Safety is designed to scale. So most of the features don't need to be documented more than once, so long as things like policies and protocols are consistent across your spaces. The other type of customer is the customer that says, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. I need a roadmap. And Well Health Safety is really good for that. But there's probably more of a journey in that process of achieving the rating for organizations like that. Most of the retailers that we've connected with so far are in that first camp. It's, schools, for instance, that we found are really struggling to get their footing and understand what are the most important things that I need to be focused on to prepare my spaces. So I would say it's about as fast as you can get your documents submitted to us. But in most cases, we're not looking for you to create something new. We're looking for you to show us what you've already done.
Great, great. And I think we may have had a little bit of hiccup there in the audio feed, but I think we got the gist of your answer there. Rachel, I guess, the other thing, I guess the question I have for you, knowing LEED and knowing how LEED started and kind of where it's gone, I know that you just launched version 2 of Well. Is there going to be, and when LEED, you had LEED for retail, at least for a while, you were doing specific kind of guidelines for the different areas. Is that something that you're going to be doing?
Hey, Michael, sorry, I got your audio question. Can you summarize?
Sorry. I guess, I'm sorry. Bandwidth issues here. My question was, the evolution of LEED compared to the evolution of Well. From kind of growing the LEED rating system that you're taking into Well.
Yeah, I got part of the question, so let's just hope that my audio holds and that I am interpreting it correctly. So one thing that the CEO of USGBC says, my former boss, is that LEED had the first mover advantage, but IWBI has the first mover disadvantage, which is to say that one of the challenges for us is that we're dealing with a pretty sophisticated market when it comes to building certifications, and we have to be global from in scaling to the level of need that is required. Like I mentioned, 1 million square feet of real estate registering since the start of the pandemic. It's an enormous amount of uptake in a short. Things we've worked really hard to do is create a system that's truly nimble and that's a living standard. So you see updates happening much more often. You see new beta features or point earning opportunities, and you see a system that's really designed to be flexible, especially because when it comes to human health, we know that the landscape of research and evidence are shifting all the time. So we begin from that place of evidence, which means if there's new insights that are emerging around particular interventions like biophilia, for instance, or strategies for addressing burnout in the workplace, we can quickly incorporate those into the system and make them available to our users based on what the latest literature has to say.
Great insights. So I know we're just out of time here, and a lot to learn here. But I want to thank you for joining us, as always, Rachel. A lot of great insights, and I encourage everyone to learn more. So we did put in the chat a link to the Well Certified website. There you can navigate and learn more. But Rachel, I'd also like to get a copy of the deck that you'd shared. We're going to send a summary email out to the attendees so they can get that and obviously learn more about getting involved. So thank you so much for your time, Rachel.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.